In today's latest news, we discuss stadium update plans as a site in Earls Court is being suggested as a possible location for us to build a brand new stadium and leave Stamford Bridge. In today's video, I want to break down the latest reports and news, but at the same time, I also want to have a conversation. I want to analyze the pros and cons leaving Stamford Bridge to go to Earls Court. And also I want to have a conversation because, listen, I'm a fan like everyone else is. My opinion is not like necessarily like the be all and end all. I'm just a YouTuber at the end of the day. But I do see arguments from both sides. From one group of people that may feel like leaving Stamford Bridge is the wrong move. And from another group that feels like it's the only necessary move to safeguard our long-term future. So please share your thoughts and opinions below so we can have like a wide conversation about this current story. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. There is going to be another video out later today, so stay tuned for that. And without wasting any more time, so right now, let's break down the story. And this article was released by The Times from writer Henry Winters. And he reports that we're hoping to get an answer by this summer to determine whether we leave Stamford Bridge or of course commit to moving elsewhere, with that location being a site in Earls Court. Now the headline of course is naturally a little bit clickbaity, you know, like Chelsea face furious fan backlash if we were to leave Stamford Bridge. You know, it's a bit subjective, but at the end of the day, this is how you get clicks on the internet. You kind of have to be a little bit naughty with your headlines. Like, I completely understand it. Right now, we are considering these three main options, you know, rebuilding Stamford Bridge, redeveloping Stamford Bridge, and leaving Stamford Bridge to build a new stadium elsewhere. For each possibility, time and cost is the main benefactor behind which decision gets made. Now, due to locations, currently going to Earls Court or remaining at Stamford Bridge are the only two strong possibilities at this point in time. Now, the article does mention subjectively that there may be potential backlash from a certain group of fans who are opposed to leaving Stamford Bridge, and it could be similar to demonstrations shown during the European Super League protests. Now again, as I stressed, this is subjective. There's no real like facts. You can't predict the future, and the group opposed to this are quite small and only recently formed. Regardless of all options being explored, a relocation cannot happen unless we get permission from Chelsea pitch owners. But maybe a solution could be found if we're transferring the Chelsea pitch owners to a new site. Now let's discuss the current realities of remaining at Stamford Bridge. I think that all sides can definitely agree upon one thing. In an idealistic world, we'd all prefer if we remained at Stamford Bridge and were able to somehow find a way to rebuild or redevelop a brand new stadium. And we can also agree with this fact that for a club of our stature in these modern times, we need a stadium right now of at least minimum maybe 55k to 60k bare minimum, of course, to match our modern day needs. Right now, planning permission is being explored. I discussed this in a previous video. If we hope to remain at Stamford Bridge, we have to remember that we're currently in conversations with Chelsea pitch owners over, you know, a 50 million bid to buy a plot of land next to our stadium. As you guys can see on screen, this is the land we're hoping to get because this gives us a possibility at least of being able to expand the capacity of Stamford Bridge. And I'll say this one more time, but all possibilities are strongly being considered. So don't listen to this video thinking that, okay, we're guaranteed now to be moving to Earls Court and, you know, creating like a battle against people that, you know, are opposed to wanting to remain at Stamford Bridge. So if this bid to buy this plot of land was to fail, we need to have backup plans. The reality is our stadium is well below the capacity of top 6 clubs in this country. It's behind in hospitality as well too. And naturally, you know, if you're redeveloping the stadium stand by stand, this is an incredible expense and it would require us having to ground share in other stadiums. Doing this is not as straightforward. It comes with its own set of like logistical problems. And the main thing is, if this was the final solution, it means that we're playing outside of Stamford Bridge for the next 4 years. Obviously, stadiums like Wembley, Craven Cottage, Twickenham, etc. have been looked at as possible ground share solutions. Currently, this is one of the most expensive ways for us to be able to build a brand new stadium. Let's discuss this site located in Earls Court. Let's start off by discussing our potential rivals with this site in the Earls Court Development Company. Now, this company is tasked with regenerating the site at Earls Court, and they work for a host of companies including TfL, APG, plus some other development companies as well too. They released a tweet today and they're basically saying that their master plan includes creating 4,500 homes, 15,000 jobs. And they're saying that they're currently not seeing a stadium as part of that master plan. The reality is though, money does talk in this game. And let's not pretend that building a brand new stadium isn't going to boost the local economy. It's not going to create tons and tons of jobs either. There are still many net benefits to building a stadium in Earls Court. As you guys can see on screen, the location from Stamford Bridge is barely much of a distance. It's 50 minutes, and Earls Court has really good, easy, straightforward transport solutions, and there's many potential train stations nearby West Brompton, Earls Court and West Kensington as well too, so it makes things very easy for fans to leave the stadium. And of course, all the local businesses nearby do benefit for having an extra influx of potentially 60,000 potential customers. So I do see the benefits behind this. And the main thing is that if it was decided that okay, we have the permission now from every party that we need to build a stadium in Earls Court, if our bid gets accepted to build a stadium on this plot of land, this would allow us to play 4 more years at Stamford Bridge. And maybe I wouldn't be surprised if we're selling the rights to Stamford Bridge or the land, etc., and using that to offset the expenses towards building a new stadium. So I can see how this could potentially work out. This is where I want to have a conversation around this news. I see it from both sides, people that want to remain and people that want to leave. Now, obviously, I could have done a city Brexit joke here, but to be fair, I think it's obviously a lot more deeper than that. And, to start with the side that wants to remain, I understand it. If there's one thing in today's game with fans today is that they don't necessarily care about the heritage, history or legacy of the sport as much. As the article said, Stamford Bridge, Anfield and Old Trafford are the only 3 historic venues still remaining in the Premier League today. We've been at Stamford Bridge for over a century, and for me, legacy plays a massive part in the lives of football fans that follow their teams. I mean, it's this simple really. When you're going to a game, you first went to a game with your dad. In the future, you'll take your kids to a game, and when you're a granddad or grandma or whatever, you're going to take your grandchild to a game in the future. Being able to pass down that torch over generations, that's kind of what it means to be a football fan. Now, let's keep things real. When you support a football club, that is a lifelong bond with that club. And I think there's another thing that we can forget at times, but we're human beings. Sentiment, heritage, these are powerful things when it comes to that human experience. And for a lot of people, it's a very important thing to be able to pass down that legacy and history over the generations. Look at us, how did most of us become Chelsea fans? I became one because my dad took me to my first game in 1999, and I'm going to be passing that down when I have kids, etc. So it's only right that this board really strongly considers this and tries to find the best possible solution that does satisfy all parties. But on the other hand, I can also see it from another perspective too. What if there's a slowly growing reality that it could be incredibly hard to remain at Stamford Bridge, stay within a realistic budget, and hope to boost and improve stadium capacity? As we all know, due to the current match-going capacity of around 40,000, we do miss out on money. And when you have other big rival clubs around you that have massive stadiums that earn even more money due to revenue earned per year from these stadiums, in the long-term future of this club, is remaining at Stamford Bridge necessarily the best business move to make? Or maybe is that the issue, that everything's about business over the fan legacy? I'll let you guys have that conversation. But regardless, the report did bring up the point that if we did move to Earls Court, if everything went in our favour, we could potentially bring in an extra 50 million a year from revenue, maybe even more. And as you guys can see on screen, look how big this plot of land is on Earls Court. There's the possibility to expand and grow even more things around the stadium, and even having the possibility to one day even improve the capacity in the future as time goes on. So in that sense, it is like a real like future-proof investment. Now, obviously Stamford Bridge is like our ancestral home, but I guess maybe moving to Earls Court is like the lesser of two evils, and it's kind of like you're spiritually close to your neighbours in that sense. I think there is one thing to consider too, and I'm going to sound quite morbid right now, but like, we're all going to die in the next few decades. That's the reality. But this football club will be going on for the next few centuries, maybe even longer than that. Who knows what the future is going to hold, but a potential side development like this gives you a lot of like leeway to safeguard yourselves over many decades, many generations, and leaving could potentially be seen as really just setting up that real legacy long-term future. As the stadium is still situated in one of the most prominent parts of West London, there could even be like football benefits. Like, we do know that we have like a very compact pitch at Stamford Bridge. You know, stadiums like, you know, City's, I think Arsenal's, United's, they have like a length of like 105 meters, a width of like 68 meters. It's like a handful of percentage bigger than ours. But even in that argument, to be fair with you, like, how you use the pitch is very dependent on the tactics you're using. For example, if you're playing like expansive possession football, ideally having a bigger pitch helps you. But as we've seen over the decades ourselves, if you're playing massive games at home on a compact pitch where you might have to defend and sit back, having that smaller pitch has helped us at times. If we had to leave Stamford Bridge, this is like the lesser of two evils. And I guess right now, I'll end things by giving a quick conclusion. You know, sometimes in life, to move on, you do have to leave the old behind. It's definitely not an easy thing to leave like a historical site like Stamford Bridge, but if you had to leave to go to Earls Court, that does minimize that backlash in my opinion. Getting a stadium is one of the most important things. When Borley and Co and KLA Capital were holding discussions with Roman Abramovich, you know, detailing their plans for a stadium is one of the most important things on that agenda. And normally when you build new stadiums, the negative from that is that that can affect what you do in the market. So I guess when you see our recent transfer strategy of securing like the foundation and core of this team and guys like Enzo Fernandez and Co, and signing lots of young players to be ready in the future as well too, it's like we're preparing for the next 10 years. And when you have like a very expensive stadium to build, we're safeguarded in the sense that, you know, if it comes to making any more additions to the team, we can probably just sell and release players. And we can't forget too that a lot of the guys we've signed, they've signed very realistic contracts and nothing too crazy. I think we can all accept the fact that an upgrade is needed, but getting this upgrade is the most difficult thing. As I'll say again, all current possibilities are still being explored, so there's still hope that we can remain at Stamford Bridge and find solutions, of course, to rebuild or redevelop a stadium in our current existing location. Maybe with the release of this article, it's like putting out a feeler to the fan base for the board and people to understand and kind of gauge the feeling behind how many people would be upset if we had to leave Stamford Bridge. But I'd imagine that there's many more conversations happening behind the scenes that don't necessarily paint a doom and gloom picture that we are destined to have to leave Stamford Bridge. So I guess I'd have to say that for me, it would have to be like a last resort if we left Stamford Bridge. I can accept why we'd have to leave, but ideally I'm hoping that we're exploring every possible solution for us to remain here and still find a way to build the stadium. But even saying that, I can understand that maybe like 50 years in the future from me making this video, we could have other issues that arise. Maybe 100 years from now, you know, you need an even bigger size stadium capacity. And what if Stamford Bridge just isn't able in the future to be future-proof for that many years in the future? Leaving would be very hard, so much history there. But you could even argue that from 2003, you know, we've been able to add to our history with all the recent developments that's happened over the past 20 plus years. And, you know, that gives you confidence that we can recreate and even grow more history if we were forced to have to move on from Stamford Bridge. So yeah, you guys, my friends, like I said, I've got no like real proper answer on this one. Let's have a conversation, share your thoughts and opinions behind this story today, and I'll see you guys later on with another video drop too. So on that note, I'm the EFC, this is BluelionsTV. I'll catch you guys there with some more videos. Cool.